My son calls me at the same time every night and asks, "Are you alone, Dad?" Last night, I lied, and the horrifying secret began to unfold. Before we go any further, take a second to subscribe, hit the hype button, and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? It was 21:47 exactly when my phone lit up on the coffee table. The screen glowed in the darkness of my living room, casting pale blue light across the worn leather armchair where I sat. Brandon never misses. Not by a minute, not by 10 seconds, not even by 5. He calls at 21:47 every single night, and the first thing out of his mouth is always the same question. "Are you alone, Dad?" Usually I say yes, because I am. My wife Sarah passed away 3 years ago, and this house in the Denver suburbs feels too big for one person now. The rooms echo when I walk through them. The kitchen stays mostly dark because I don't cook much anymore. The second bedroom upstairs, the one we used as an office, still has her books on the shelves and her reading glasses on the desk. I haven't moved them. I can't. But I'm not ready to leave this place. I know every creak in the floorboards, every loose hinge on every cabinet, every place where the winter drafts sneak through the window frames. I built half this house myself, back when my hands were steadier, and my back didn't complain every morning when I got out of bed. Back when I was still working as a structural engineer, still climbing scaffolding, still reading blueprints under harsh sight lights. I'm 61 now. My hair is more gray than brown. My knees ache when it rains. But my mind is sharp. I can still calculate load-bearing requirements in my head. I can still spot a structural flaw from 50 feet away. I can still see patterns where other people see chaos. And last night, for reasons I still don't fully understand, I decided to test something. When the phone rang at 21:47, I picked it up and said, "No, Brandon, I've got a friend over." There was a pause. Just 2 seconds, maybe 3. But in that silence, something shifted. The air in the room felt different, heavier. "Oh," he said. His voice flattened, losing the warm tone he usually started with. "Who?" "Old colleague from the firm. We're going over some blueprints, thinking about consulting on a small project." Another pause. Longer this time. "That's great, Dad. Really great. Sounds like you're keeping busy." "Trying to." "Well, I don't want to interrupt. I'll let you go then." "Okay. Talk to you tomorrow." "Yeah, tomorrow." He hung up. I sat there on the couch, staring at my phone. The call had lasted 19 seconds. Normally, we talk for 3, maybe 4 minutes. He asks about my day in detail. Did I eat breakfast? Did I take my medication? Did I go outside? He reminds me about appointments I haven't forgotten. He tells me about work, about his wife Alyssa, about the weather forecast for the weekend. It's routine, predictable, comfortable even. But last night, he just hung up. I set the phone down and looked around the empty living room. The blueprints I'd mentioned didn't exist. The colleague didn't exist. It was just me, alone, like always. 20 minutes later, I saw the black SUV. I'd gotten up to get a glass of water from the kitchen. As I walked past the front window, I noticed headlights across the street. A vehicle had pulled up and parked near the Reed's house, but the engine was still running. The headlights were off now, but I could see the dark shape of it against the streetlights. I stood at the living room window with the lights behind me and watched. The vehicle didn't move. No one got out. No doors opened. It just sat there, a dark shape in the night, for 5 full minutes. I checked my watch. 5 minutes exactly. Then it drove away slowly, without turning its headlights back on until it reached the corner. I'm 61 years old. I spent 30 years as a structural engineer. I've worked on hospital buildings, apartment complexes, office towers, bridges. I know the difference between coincidence and pattern. I know when something doesn't add up. I know when the numbers are wrong, when the angles don't work, when someone's trying to hide a flaw in the foundation, and I know when I'm being watched. So I started looking. The first thing I checked was the smart speaker on the kitchen counter. I'd bought it 2 years ago because Brandon insisted it would make my life easier. You can set reminders, Dad. Play music. Ask it questions. Check the weather without getting up. He'd even come over to set it up for me, linking it to my phone, my calendar, my contacts. I never used it much. I don't like talking to machines. But it was always plugged in, always listening for its wake word, always ready to respond. I pulled up the activity log on my phone, scrolling through the history. Every command, every activation, every time the device woke up, time-stamped and recorded. 21:47. Every night for the past 3 months, the device activated. But I hadn't said the wake word. I hadn't said anything. The only sound in the house at 21:47 was Brandon's voice coming through my phone speaker. The smart speaker was waking up on its own, or someone was waking it remotely. I set the phone down on the counter and stood there for a long moment, thinking. Then I went to the basement. My old toolbox was still there, sitting on the metal shelf next to the water heater, dusty but organized. I grabbed a flashlight, a voltage tester, and a small screwdriver set. Then I started checking the wiring around the house. It didn't take long. There was a new cable running along the baseboard in the hallway between the living room and the kitchen. Thin, professional-grade coaxial. It disappeared into the wall near the thermostat. I didn't install that cable. I would remember. I remember everything I've ever built or fixed in this house. I followed it as far as I could without tearing into the drywall. It ran along the edge of the floor, tucked beneath the trim, almost invisible unless you were looking for it. It terminated behind the bookshelf in the living room, where a small black box was velcroed to the back panel. The box was about the size of a deck of cards. Matte black plastic. No brand name, no labels. Just a tiny blinking red LED on one corner and a port for a micro SD card on the side. I pulled it free carefully and turned it over in my hands. It was warm, active, recording or transmitting or both. I put it back exactly where I found it, making sure the Velcro stuck in the same position. Then I went upstairs, sat on the edge of my bed, and thought about my son. Brandon was always the smart one. Top of his class in high school. Full academic ride to the University of Colorado. Corporate job in data analytics before he turned 25. He works in HR now, something about efficiency models and workforce optimization. He analyzes employee behavior, predicts performance metrics, identifies risks before they become problems. I don't pretend to understand the details, but I know he's good at it. He sees patterns in numbers. He predicts what people will do before they do it. He manages human beings like they're variables in an equation, and lately, he's been managing me. It started about a year ago, maybe a little more. He began calling every night. Just checking in, Dad, making sure you're okay. At first, it felt nice, thoughtful. He was busy with work, with his marriage, with his life, but he still made time for his old man. Then he started suggesting changes. Small things at first. You don't need to drive so much, Dad. You can order groceries online. It's safer. Then bigger things. Let me take a look at your bills. I can set up automatic payments. One less thing for you to worry about. I said no to most of it. I'm not helpless. I'm not confused. I'm not some fragile old man who can't manage his own life. I'm just old. But Brandon kept pushing. Gently at first, then more insistently. 6 months ago, he convinced me to give him view-only access to my bank account. Just in case, Dad, if something happens, if you're in the hospital or something, I need to be able to help. It made sense at the time. So I set it up, carefully limiting his access to view-only. He wasn't happy about the restriction, but he didn't argue. 3 months ago, he started talking about assisted living facilities, not nursing homes. He was always careful to emphasize that. Senior communities, Dad. Places where you'd have people around. Activities, social events, medical staff on site. It's safer than being alone out here. I told him I wasn't interested. This is my home. I built it. I'm not leaving. 2 months ago, he stopped asking. And that's when the real work began. I didn't notice it at first. I'm not on social media. I don't spend time on neighborhood apps or community forums. I don't talk to the neighbors unless I have to, and even then, it's just polite waves and brief conversations about the weather. But about a month ago, Gloria Reed from next door knocked on my door late in the afternoon. She was holding a casserole dish covered in aluminum foil and wearing an expression of deep concern. "Michael, honey, are you doing okay? I've been hearing some things, and I wanted to check on you." I frowned, confused. "What things?" She hesitated, glancing back toward her house like she was worried someone might be watching. "Well, Alyssa mentioned that you've been having some trouble lately. Memory issues, confusion. She said you called her in the middle of the night last week, asking where Sarah was." My jaw tightened. I felt heat rising in my chest. "I didn't call Alyssa, and I know exactly where my wife is." Gloria's face flushed red. Oh, I'm so sorry. I just thought, she seemed so worried, and I thought maybe—" "You thought wrong, Gloria." She set the casserole down on the porch railing, mumbled another apology, and hurried back to her house. I stood there for a long time, staring at the casserole, at the street, at the neat rows of houses with their perfect lawns and their drawn curtains. Alyssa, my daughter-in-law, Brandon's wife. She's 31, 10 years younger than Brandon. She works as a real estate influencer, which, as far as I can tell, means she posts photographs of expensive houses on the internet and gets paid by companies to pretend she uses their products. She's always perfectly dressed, perfectly made up, always smiling that bright white smile. She talks too loud, she laughs too hard, she treats every conversation like it's a performance for an invisible audience, and apparently she's been telling people I'm losing my mind. I went back inside, left the casserole on the porch, and called my doctor's office. I made an appointment for a full cognitive screening. If someone was going to spread rumors about my mental state, I wanted documentation proving them wrong. The appointment was scheduled for 2 weeks out. The earliest they could fit me in. I didn't tell Brandon. That night, at 21:47, my phone rang right on schedule. "Are you alone, Dad?" "Yeah, Brandon, just me." "Good. How was your day?" "Fine, quiet." "Did you take your medication?" "Yes." "Did you eat something?" "Yes." "What did you have?" "Sandwich, turkey, and cheese." "That's good. You need to keep your strength up. Did you go outside at all?" "Walk to the mailbox." "That's great, Dad. Really great. Exercise is important." We talked for another 3 minutes about nothing. The weather. A news story he'd seen. A problem at work he was trying to solve. He sounded warm, engaged, caring. When he finally said goodbye, I sat there holding the phone, staring at the dark screen. Then I heard it. A faint click from the kitchen. A soft, mechanical hum. I stood up and walked slowly toward the sound. The smart speaker's light ring glowed blue for half a second, then went dark. Someone was listening, not just during the call. After it. Someone was monitoring my house, my movements, my voice, my life. I went to the window and looked out at the street. The black SUV was back, parked in the same spot as before, engine running, lights off. This time, I didn't look away. I stood there in full view, staring directly at it. After 2 minutes, it drove away. I went back to the couch, picked up a notepad and a pen from the side table, and started writing down everything I could remember. Every strange moment, every odd conversation, every time something felt wrong, but I'd brushed it off. Brandon removing contacts from my phone. "These numbers are outdated, Dad. Half these people don't even work at the firm anymore. Let me clean this up for you." Alyssa asking detailed questions about my will during Thanksgiving dinner. "It's so important to have everything organized, Mike. You don't want to leave Brandon with a legal mess when the time comes." The cable company technician who showed up at my door 3 months ago, claiming there was a service upgrade in the neighborhood. I'd let him into the basement. He'd spent 20 minutes down there, and when he came back up, he said everything was fine, no charge, just routine maintenance. I should have known. I should have checked. I'm an engineer. I know how systems work. I know when something's been altered, but I trusted him because Brandon had called the day before to tell me the technician was coming. Just making sure you know, Dad. Don't worry about it. It's all covered. By the time the sun came up, I had 4 full pages of notes. None of it was proof, but all of it was pattern, and patterns don't lie. At 9 in the morning, I got in my car and drove across town to a small electronics shop I'd never been to before. It was on the east side, in a strip mall between a pawn shop and a laundromat. The kind of place that sells burner phones, surveillance equipment, and doesn't ask questions. A kid in his early 20s stood behind the counter, scrolling through his phone. He barely glanced up when I walked in. Help you find something? I need a digital voice recorder, something small, high quality, and a bug detector. That got his attention. He looked up, studied me for a second, then nodded. Got both. What's your budget? Doesn't matter. I want the best you have. He led me to a locked display case in the back corner. Inside were devices I didn't recognize. Tiny cameras, audio recorders no bigger than a USB drive, signal detectors, GPS trackers. This one, he said, pointing to a slim black recorder. 40-hour battery life, records in multiple formats. Files can be uploaded directly to cloud storage if you want. $300. I'll take it. And for the detector, this is your best option. Scans for RF signals, hidden cameras, audio bugs, GPS trackers, adjustable sensitivity, 500. That too. And I need a new phone, prepaid, unlocked. Any specific model? Doesn't matter, just something that works. He rang everything up. $870. I paid cash. He bagged it all without asking why I needed it. When I left, he was already back on his phone, scrolling. I drove home, parked in the garage, and spent the next 2 hours sweeping my house with the bug detector. It chirped in the living room behind the bookshelf. I already knew about that one. It chirped in the kitchen near the microwave. I pulled the microwave out from the wall and found another small black box velcroed to the back panel. It chirped in the hallway outside my bedroom. Another device tucked into the air vent. It chirped in my bedroom itself, behind the headboard of my bed. 4 devices. 4. I stood in the middle of my bedroom, holding the detector, feeling my hands shake. They'd been listening to everything, every phone call, every conversation I had with myself when I thought I was alone. Every sound I made moving through my own house. For how long? Months? A year? I wanted to rip them all out, to smash them, to throw them in Brandon's face and demand an explanation. But I didn't. If I removed them now, whoever was monitoring would know I'd found them. They'd know I was onto them. And they'd change tactics, cover their tracks, disappear the evidence. Better to let them think they still had the advantage. So I left every device exactly where it was. Instead, I went back to my car, pulled out the new phone, and called my old friend Greg Sutton. Greg and I went back 30 years. We'd worked on dozens of projects together before he retired. He'd been a notary public for most of his career, handling legal documents, witnessing signatures, making sure everything was proper and binding. If anyone knew how to navigate legal paperwork, it was Greg. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Mike? That really you? Haven't heard from you in months." "I need your help, Greg. Something legal. Something private." There was a pause. When he spoke again, his voice was more serious. "You in trouble?" "Not yet, but I might be soon." "Where are you?" "Home." "Don't talk there. Can you come to my place?" "Yeah." "Give me an hour. I'll make coffee." Greg lived in a quiet neighborhood south of the city, in a small ranch house with a perfectly maintained lawn and flower beds his late wife had planted 20 years ago. He still tended them, even though she'd been gone almost as long as Sarah. He met me at the door, older than I remembered, but still sharp-eyed and steady. We shook hands and he led me to his kitchen, where 2 mugs of coffee were already waiting. We sat across from each other at the small wooden table, and I told him everything. The nightly phone calls, the question that never varied, the smart speaker activating on its own, the black SUV, the surveillance devices hidden throughout my house, the rumors being spread by Alyssa, the cable technician, the bank account access, the constant pressure to move, to sign things, to give up control. Greg listened without interrupting, his face growing more serious with each detail. When I finished, he sat back in his chair and let out a long, slow breath. "Mike, what you're describing is a guardianship play. Your son is setting you up." "For what, exactly?" "Legal control, complete control. If he can prove to a court that you're mentally incapacitated, even temporarily, he can petition for emergency guardianship. Once he has that, he controls everything. Your finances, your property, your medical decisions, where you live, what you do. You become a ward of the court, and he becomes your legal guardian. You'd have no more rights than a child." My stomach turned cold. Can he really do that? I'm not incapacitated. Doesn't matter if it's true, Mike. It matters if he can make it look true. And from what you've told me, he's been building a narrative for months. The surveillance gives him a record of your daily routines. The rumors establish a pattern of cognitive decline in the community. The isolation makes it harder for you to find witnesses who can contradict his claims. He's creating a story, and if he gets a judge to believe it, even for a few days, it's over. What do I do? Greg leaned forward, his hands folded on the table. You fight back, but you have to be smart about it, strategic. First thing, you need a medical evaluation, not just a regular checkup, a full neurological workup with a reputable specialist, MRI, cognitive tests, memory assessments, the whole package. You need documentation that proves beyond any doubt that you're mentally sound. I already scheduled an appointment. Good, that's good. When? Week and a half. Move it up if you can. Time is critical here. Second thing, you need to document everything they're doing. Every phone call, every conversation, every interaction. The surveillance devices you found, don't remove them, but photograph them. Document their locations. Get timestamps. You need evidence that this isn't paranoia, that they're actually monitoring you. I bought a recorder. Perfect. Use it. Record every conversation you have with Brandon, with Alyssa, with anyone who might be part of this. Third thing, and this is crucial, you need to set up a legal firewall, a revocable living trust with an anti-coercion clause. I frowned. What's that? It's a legal document that puts your assets into a trust that you control. The anti-coercion clause is a special provision. Basically, if anyone tries to pressure you, threaten you, or manipulate you into signing over control of your assets, the trust automatically transfers everything to a designated third party. Usually a charity or a public institution. It makes you worthless as a target. If they can't get your money or your property, there's no point in pursuing guardianship. Can you set something like that up? I can draft the initial documents. You'll need a lawyer to finalize everything and file it properly. But yeah, I can get you started today if you want. Relief washed through me, the first I'd felt in days. Thank you, Greg. I don't know what I'd do without... He held up a hand. Don't thank me yet. This is going to get ugly, Mike. When they realize you're fighting back, they're going to escalate. They'll try to discredit you, maybe even provoke you into doing something they can use against you. You have to stay calm, stay smart. Don't give them anything they can twist. I understand. And Mike, you're not alone in this. I'm with you. Whatever you need. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. We spent the next 2 hours going over the details. Greg pulled out his laptop and started drafting the trust document, asking me questions about my assets, my wishes, my contingencies. He explained every clause, every provision, every legal term. By the time I left his house, I had a folder full of documents and a plan. I wasn't helpless. I wasn't a victim. I was going to fight. That night, at 21:47, my phone rang right on schedule. I pressed record on the new digital voice recorder before I answered. "Are you alone, Dad?" "Yeah, Brandon, just me." "How are you feeling today? You sound tired." "I'm always tired. I'm 61. He laughed, but it sounded forced. "Fair enough. Hey, listen, I wanted to talk to you about something, about the future." "What about it?" "Well, Alyssa and I have been thinking. You're out there all by yourself, and we worry. What if something happens? What if you fall and you can't get to a phone? What if you have a medical emergency in the middle of the night? I'll handle it." "But Dad, that's the thing. You shouldn't have to handle it alone. There are places, really nice places, where you'd have people around all the time, medical staff, activities, other people your age. You wouldn't have to worry about anything." "I'm not going to a nursing home, Brandon. It's not a nursing home. It's a community, a senior living community. We could go visit a few, just to look. No pressure, just to see what they're like." "I'm not interested." There was a pause. Then I heard it, faint but unmistakable in the background. A second voice, male, professional. "Got the filing ready for Friday? Just need the—" Brandon's voice cut back in, louder, covering it. "Okay, Dad, I hear you. I just want you to think about it, all right? For me, for Alyssa. We love you, and we want you to be safe." "I am safe." "All right. Well, get some rest. I'll call you tomorrow." He hung up. I stopped the recording and sat there in the dark living room, my heart pounding. Filing. Ready for Friday. They were going to court. The next morning, I called my doctor's office and explained that I needed to move up my appointment. It was urgent. The receptionist put me on hold, and when she came back, she said they'd had a cancellation for the following afternoon. Could I make that? Yes, I could make that. Then I looked up lawyers in the area, not the big corporate firms downtown. Those were the kind of places Brandon probably had connections to through his work. I needed someone smaller, someone independent, someone who wouldn't be impressed by corporate HR data analysts. I found a small practice near the university. 2 lawyers, 1 paralegal, operating out of a converted house. The reviews were good, aggressive, but ethical. Specialized in elder law and family disputes. I called. The receptionist said they could see me that afternoon if I could come in at 4. I said I'd be there. The law office was exactly what I'd hoped for. Cluttered, but organized, filled with case files and law books, the kind of place where people did actual work instead of trying to look impressive. The receptionist was a young woman with purple streaks in her hair and a kind smile. "Mr. Harlow? Jason will see you now." She led me down a narrow hallway to a small office at the back. A man in his early 30s stood up from behind a desk covered in papers. He was wearing a button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up, jeans and sneakers. He had the kind of face that looked like it smiled easily, but his eyes were sharp and focused. "Mr. Harlow, I'm Jason Miller. Have a seat." We shook hands and I sat down. He cleared a space on his desk and opened a fresh legal pad. "So, tell me what's going on." I handed him the folder Greg had given me, along with my own notes, the photographs of the surveillance devices, and the recordings I'd made. He read through everything carefully, taking his time, occasionally making notes. When he finished, he looked up at me. His expression was serious now. "Your son is trying to destroy you." "I know. And you understand what's at stake here? If he succeeds, you lose everything. Your freedom, your property, your autonomy, everything." "I understand." "Good, because we're going to stop him. But I need you to be honest with me about something. How far are you willing to go?" I met his eyes. "As far as it takes." He nodded slowly. "All right, here's what we're dealing with. If your son files for emergency guardianship, the hearing will happen fast, maybe 48 hours. The court will appoint a temporary guardian ad litem to evaluate the situation, but that person will rely heavily on the evidence your son presents. If he's got surveillance footage, witness statements, medical opinions, the burden of proof shifts to you to prove you're competent. And that's hard to do when you're being ambushed. So how do we stop it? We go on offense. First, I'm filing a motion for an independent medical evaluation. We're going to demand that both you and your son undergo full psychiatric screenings. If he's making claims about your mental state, we have the right to question his. Second, we're going to subpoena those smart speaker logs and any other electronic surveillance records. If he's been illegally monitoring you, that destroys his credibility and potentially exposes him to criminal charges. What about the bugs in my house? Leave them for now. If you remove them, he'll know you're onto him and he'll adjust. Better to let him think he still has the advantage. But document everything. Photograph them, note their locations, timestamps, everything. We'll use it later. When? In court, when he least expects it. Jason leaned forward, his expression intense. Mr. Harlow, I'm going to be straight with you. This is going to get nasty. Your son is going to try to paint you as confused, paranoid, possibly dangerous. He's going to bring in witnesses who will say they've seen you acting strange. He's going to present evidence that makes you look incapable, and when we fight back, he's going to escalate. I can handle it. Can you? Because when this goes to court, you're going to have to sit there and listen to your own son tell a judge that you're not fit to manage your own life. You're going to hear people you thought were friends testify against you. It's brutal, it's personal, and it hurts. I thought about Brandon, about the little boy who used to help me build things in the garage, who used to ask me endless questions about how things worked, who used to look at me like I had all the answers. Then I thought about the man who'd hidden surveillance devices in my home, who'd been planning for months to take everything from me, who called me every night, not because he cared, but because he was checking on his investment. I can handle it, I said again. Jason studied my face for a long moment, then nodded. All right, then let's get to work. We spent the next hour going over strategy, timelines, evidence requirements. Jason explained every step of the process, every potential obstacle, every way things could go wrong, and how we'd handle it. When I finally left his office, it was getting dark outside. I felt exhausted but clear-headed. I had a plan. I had help. I wasn't alone. I drove home through the quiet streets, watching for the black SUV. I didn't see it. But when I pulled into my driveway, I noticed something new. There was a white panel van parked 2 houses down, on the opposite side of the street. No company logo, no markings, just a plain white van with tinted windows. I sat in my car for a minute, watching it. Nothing moved. I got out, locked my car, and walked to my front door. As I unlocked it, I glanced back. The van was still there, engine off, nobody visible inside. I went inside, locked the door behind me, and checked every room. Everything was exactly as I'd left it, but the feeling of being watched was stronger than ever. The medical evaluation was scheduled for 2 p.m. at a clinic across town. Dr. Elaine Porter specialized in neurology and geriatric cognitive assessment. Jason had recommended her specifically because she had a reputation for being thorough, objective, and impossible to intimidate. I arrived 15 minutes early. The waiting room was quiet, decorated in calming blues and grays, with abstract art on the walls. I was the only patient there. A nurse called my name at exactly 2 o'clock and led me back to an examination room. Dr. Porter came in a few minutes later. She was in her mid-50s with short gray hair, glasses, and a calm, professional manner. She shook my hand and sat down across from me. Mr. Harlow, thank you for coming in. I understand you're here for a comprehensive cognitive evaluation. That's right. Can you tell me why you're requesting this evaluation? I'd prepared for this question. My son has been expressing concerns about my mental state. I want to make sure there's clear documentation of my actual condition. She made a note on her tablet. I see. And do you have any concerns about your own cognitive function? No, I'm 61. My memory is fine. I'm managing my own affairs without any difficulty. Good. Well, we're going to run a full battery of tests today. Cognitive function, memory, executive function, processing speed, verbal ability. We'll also do an MRI to check for any structural abnormalities. The whole process will take about 4 hours. Is that all right? That's fine. Let's get started. The tests were more thorough than I'd expected. She started with simple questions. What's today's date? What year is it? Who's the current president? Then more complex tasks. She showed me a series of objects and asked me to remember them. She gave me math problems to solve mentally. She had me repeat increasingly long strings of numbers backwards. She asked me to draw a clock showing a specific time. She had me name as many animals as I could in 60 seconds. After the cognitive tests, she ran the MRI. I lay still in the loud humming machine for 45 minutes, while it mapped my brain in three-dimensional detail. When everything was finished, Dr. Porter had me come back to her office. Mr. Harlow, I'm going to be direct with you. Based on everything I've observed today and the preliminary results of your tests, there is absolutely nothing wrong with your cognitive function. Your memory is excellent, actually above average for your age group. Your processing speed is good. Your executive function is solid. You scored in the 92nd percentile compared to your age cohort. I felt tension I hadn't realized I was carrying release from my shoulders. So if someone were claiming I was mentally incapacitated, they would be lying. Or at the very least, seriously mistaken. I'll have my full written report ready within 48 hours, including the MRI results, and I'll send it directly to your attorney. If necessary, I'm prepared to testify in court regarding my findings. Thank you, Dr. Porter. She looked at me seriously. Mr. Harlow, I've been doing this work for 23 years. I've seen cases where family members genuinely believe their loved one is declining when they're not. And I've seen cases where family members deliberately fabricate cognitive problems for their own benefit. Based on what you've told me and what I've observed, I suspect you're dealing with the latter. Be careful. I intend to. That night, I was in my kitchen making dinner when I heard a car pull into my driveway. I looked out the window and saw Brandon's silver sedan. He got out and walked up to my front door. I heard the doorbell ring. I turned on the voice recorder in my pocket and went to answer it. Brandon stood on my porch, hands in his pockets, trying to look casual, but I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw was tight. Hey, Dad, I was in the neighborhood. Thought I'd stop by. All right. He waited, clearly expecting me to invite him in. I didn't. Can I come in for a minute? I wanted to talk to you about something. I stepped aside and he walked past me into the living room. I closed the door and followed him. He sat down on the couch without being invited. I remained standing. What do you want to talk about? Dad, I've been thinking about our conversation the other night, about you living here alone, and I'm really worried. Alyssa's worried too. We both are. I'm fine, Brandon. But that's the thing, Dad. You say you're fine, but there have been some concerning things lately. Like what? He pulled out his phone and started scrolling through it. Well, for one thing, Gloria Reed told Alyssa that you were outside at 3 a.m. last week, wandering around the yard in your pajamas. She said she almost called the police because she thought someone was breaking in. That didn't happen. Dad, she saw you. It didn't happen, Brandon. I don't wander around outside in the middle of the night. Gloria is either confused or she's lying. His expression hardened slightly. Why would she lie? That's a very good question. Why don't you tell me? We stared at each other for a long moment. Dad, I'm just trying to help you. I'm trying to make sure you're safe and taken care of. Why are you making this so difficult? I'm not making anything difficult. You're the one showing up unannounced, repeating false stories about me. They're not false. Yes, they are. And we both know it. He stood up abruptly. Fine. You know what? I tried. I've been trying for months. But if you're going to be stubborn about this, if you're going to refuse help, then I don't know what else to do. You could try leaving me alone. His face flushed red. For a moment, I thought he was going to yell, but he took a breath and forced his voice back to calm. I'm your son, Dad. I'm not going to abandon you just because you're too proud to admit you need help. Even if you hate me for it, I'm going to make sure you're safe. He walked past me to the door, yanked it open, and left without looking back. I stood in the living room, listening to his car start and drive away. Then I pulled out the recorder and stopped it. I had the whole conversation on tape. 2 days later, I was served. I'd just gotten home from the grocery store when a woman in a business suit walked up my driveway. She was carrying a manila envelope. Michael Harlow? Yes. You've been served. She handed me the envelope and walked away before I could respond. I carried my groceries inside, set them on the kitchen counter, and opened the envelope. Petition for emergency guardianship. My hands went cold as I read through the document. Brandon had filed. He was claiming I was mentally incompetent, unable to manage my own affairs, a danger to myself. He was requesting immediate temporary guardianship pending a full evaluation. The hearing was scheduled for Friday morning, 2 days away. I called Jason immediately. They filed, I said. I know. I got the notice an hour ago. It's okay, Mike. This is exactly what we expected. It doesn't feel okay. I know it doesn't, but listen to me. We're ready for this. We've got Dr. Porter's report. We've got the surveillance evidence. We've got the recordings. We're going to walk into that courtroom and destroy his case. What if it's not enough? It will be, trust me. Just stay calm, don't do anything rash, and meet me at the courthouse at 9 o'clock Friday morning. We've got this. I wanted to believe him. That night, at 21:47, my phone rang. I stared at it for a long moment, watching Brandon's name flash on the screen. Then I answered. Are you alone, Dad? What do you want, Brandon? There was a pause. I just wanted to check on you. Make sure you're okay. I'm fine. Did you get the papers today? You know I did. I'm sorry it had to come to this, Dad. I really am. But you left me no choice. This is for your own good. Is it? Yes. You'll see that eventually. When you're somewhere safe with people taking care of you, you'll understand that I was just trying to help. I felt rage building in my chest, hot and sharp. But I kept my voice steady. I'm not going anywhere, Brandon, and you're not taking anything from me. We'll see what the judge says. Yes, we will. I hung up before he could respond. Then I turned off my phone, sat in the dark living room, and waited for Friday. Friday morning arrived cold and gray. I put on my best suit, the charcoal one I used to wear to important client meetings, and drove downtown to the courthouse. Jason was waiting for me outside, carrying his briefcase and 2 cups of coffee. Morning, Mike. You ready? As I'll ever be. He handed me one of the coffees. Good. Remember what we talked about. Stay calm, answer questions directly, don't volunteer extra information, and don't engage with your son. Let me handle the legal arguments. Got it. We walked inside together. The courthouse was busy, people moving through security checkpoints, lawyers in suits talking in clusters. We took the elevator to the 4th floor and found the courtroom. Brandon was already there, sitting at one of the tables with his lawyer and Alyssa. The lawyer was exactly what I'd expected. Mid-50s, silver hair, expensive suit, the kind of man who projected authority and success. He was reviewing documents, making notes with a fountain pen. Alyssa was dressed like she was going to a business meeting. Tailored dress, high heels, makeup perfect. She glanced at me when I walked in, then looked away quickly. Brandon didn't look at me at all. Jason and I sat at the other table. He pulled out files, organized papers, checked his notes. I tried to keep my breathing steady. At exactly 9 o'clock, the bailiff called out, "All rise." Judge Margaret Hendricks walked in. She was in her mid-60s with sharp eyes behind rimless glasses and an expression that said she didn't have time for nonsense. She took her seat and gestured for everyone else to sit. "We're here for a petition for emergency guardianship," she said, looking at the file in front of her. "The petitioner is Brandon Harlow, seeking guardianship of his father, Michael Harlow. Counselors, are both parties present?" "Yes, Your Honor," Brandon's lawyer said, standing. "David Brennan representing the petitioner." "Jason Miller representing the respondent," Jason said, standing as well. "Very well. Mr. Brennan, you may proceed with your case." Brennan stood and walked to the center of the courtroom. He was smooth, confident, practiced. "Your Honor, my client Brandon Harlow has filed this petition with great reluctance and deep concern for his father's well-being. Over the past several months, Mr. Michael Harlow has exhibited increasingly concerning behaviors that suggest significant cognitive decline. These behaviors include memory lapses, confusion about dates and times, difficulty managing basic tasks, and episodes of paranoia. He pulled out a folder and began presenting documents. "I have sworn statements from 3 neighbors who have observed Mr. Harlow engaged in strange behavior. Mrs. Gloria Reed states that she observed him outside his home at 3 in the morning, apparently confused and disoriented. Mr. Thomas Chen, another neighbor, reports that Mr. Harlow accused him of spying on him without any basis in reality. Ms. Patricia Lanford states that she had a conversation with Mr. Harlow in which he became agitated and could not remember basic details about current events." None of that was true. I'd never spoken to Thomas Chen in my life. I'd never met Patricia Lanford. But Brennan presented each statement like it was established fact. "Additionally," Brennan continued, "my client has attempted repeatedly to help his father. He calls every evening to check on him. He's offered to assist with bills and household management. He's suggested safer living arrangements with full-time care. Mr. Harlow has refused all assistance and has become increasingly hostile toward family members who are simply trying to help." He pulled out another document. "I also have medical documentation suggesting cognitive impairment." Jason stood immediately. "Objection, Your Honor. May I see that documentation?" Judge Hendricks nodded. The bailiff took the document from Brennan and handed it to Jason. Jason read it quickly, his expression darkening. Then he looked up. "Your Honor, this is supposedly a psychological evaluation from Dr. Richard Kessler dated 3 weeks ago. I've never heard of Dr. Kessler, and my client has never been evaluated by him." "Mr. Brennan?" the judge said. Brennan looked momentarily uncomfortable. "Your Honor, Dr. Kessler performed an informal assessment based on behavioral observations provided by family members." "An informal assessment?" Jason said, his voice sharp. "Based on secondhand reports? That's not a medical evaluation, Your Honor. That's hearsay dressed up with a medical degree." Judge Hendricks frowned. "I'm inclined to agree. Mr. Brennan, do you have any actual medical records from a doctor who has examined Mr. Harlow directly?" "Not at this time, Your Honor, but—" "Then I'm not considering this document as evidence. Continue." Brennan looked rattled but pressed on. "Your Honor, the pattern is clear. Mr. Michael Harlow is experiencing cognitive decline. He's isolated, paranoid, and unable to recognize that he needs help. My client is deeply concerned that his father will harm himself or make decisions that will destroy his financial security. We're requesting temporary guardianship pending a full medical and psychiatric evaluation." He sat down. Judge Hendricks turned to Jason. "Mr. Miller, your response?" Jason stood, and I could see the shift in his demeanor. He wasn't friendly anymore. He was focused, aggressive, ready. "Your Honor, what we've just heard is a fabricated narrative designed to strip my client of his fundamental rights. Let me be clear. Michael Harlow is not cognitively impaired. He's not confused. He's not paranoid. He's being systematically targeted by his own son in an attempted financial takeover." He pulled out his own folder, much thicker than Brennan's. "I have a complete neurological evaluation from Dr. Elaine Porter, conducted 3 days ago. Dr. Porter is a board-certified neurologist with over 20 years of experience. She performed comprehensive cognitive testing and an MRI scan. Her conclusion, which I'm submitting to the court right now, is unequivocal. Michael Harlow is fully competent. He scored in the 92nd percentile for his age group. There is no evidence of cognitive decline whatsoever. He handed the report to the bailiff, who passed it to the judge. Furthermore, Jason continued, the so-called witness statements Mr. Brennan presented are either fabrications or deliberately misleading. Gloria Reed has already submitted a revised statement recanting her previous claims and admitting that she was pressured by the petitioner's wife to make false statements. I'm submitting that revised statement now. Another document went to the judge. As for Thomas Chen and Patricia Lanford, my investigator has been unable to locate any evidence that these conversations ever occurred. We've requested contact information for these witnesses so we can interview them ourselves, but Mr. Brennan has not provided it. Brennan stood up. Your Honor, I object. My client provided those statements in good faith. If they exist, Your Honor, then produce the witnesses, Jason said. Let them testify under oath, because I believe we'll find they either don't exist or they'll admit they never actually witnessed what they claim to witness. Judge Hendricks was reading through Dr. Porter's report, her expression serious. Finally, she looked up. Mr. Brennan, these are serious allegations Mr. Miller is making. Do you have any response? Brennan looked like he was scrambling. Your Honor, we stand by our petition. The medical evaluation Mr. Miller submitted is very recent. It's possible that Mr. Harlow was having a good day, or that he was able to mask his symptoms during the evaluation. Jason didn't wait for permission to respond. Your Honor, that's absurd. Dr. Porter conducted 4 hours of testing, including brain imaging. You can't fake an MRI. I'm inclined to agree, Judge Hendricks said. She closed the file and looked at both lawyers. Gentlemen, based on what I've seen and heard this morning, I'm denying the petition for emergency guardianship. However, I'm going to order independent psychiatric evaluations for both parties. Both parties? Brennan said, surprised. Yes. If Mr. Brandon Harlow is making claims about his father's mental state, I want to ensure that his judgment is sound and that his motivations are appropriate. Both evaluations will be conducted by court-appointed psychiatrists within the next 10 days. We'll reconvene after I've reviewed those reports. She banged her gavel. Court is adjourned. Everyone stood as she left. I felt like I could breathe again. Jason turned to me, grinning. That's what I call a win. Across the room, Brandon was in heated conversation with his lawyer. Alyssa looked pale. Jason started packing up his files. They weren't expecting us to be prepared. They thought they could steamroll you with fake evidence and intimidation, but we just showed them that's not going to work. What happens now? We wait for the psych evals. Yours will be fine. Brandon's might reveal some interesting things about his motivations and mental state. Either way, we're in a much stronger position now. We walked out of the courtroom together. In the hallway, Brandon was standing by the elevators with Alyssa and his lawyer. When he saw me, his expression was cold. This isn't over, Dad, he said. I stopped walking and looked at him. You're right, it's not. Jason put a hand on my arm. Let's go, Mike. We took a different elevator down. That night, at 21:47, my phone rang. I didn't answer. It rang again at 22 GU, and again at 22:15. I let them all go to voicemail. Then I sat in my living room and listened to the messages. The first one was Brandon, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. Dad, we need to talk. Call me back. The second was Alyssa. Mike, please. Brandon is really upset. He's just trying to help you. Why are you being so difficult about this? Just call us back so we can talk like adults. The third was Brandon again. Fine. Don't answer. But you should know that we're not giving up. One way or another, we're going to make sure you're taken care of, even if you hate us for it. I deleted all 3 messages and turned off the phone. The psychiatric evaluations were scheduled for the following week. Mine was on Tuesday morning. I met with Dr. Alan Grayson, a court-appointed psychiatrist who specialized in competency evaluations. He was professional, thorough, and completely neutral. We talked for 2 hours. He asked about my life, my work history, my relationships, my daily routines. He asked about Sarah's passing and how I'd coped with it. He asked about my relationship with Brandon, and I told him the truth. Everything. He gave me standardized psychological tests, asked me to interpret abstract scenarios, assessed my judgment and decision-making abilities. At the end, he closed his notebook and looked at me. Mr. Harlow, I see no evidence of impaired judgment, cognitive decline, or mental illness. You're dealing with a difficult family situation, but your responses have been rational, consistent, and appropriate. I'll be submitting my report to the court by the end of the week. Thank you. Brandon's evaluation was scheduled for Thursday. I didn't hear anything about how it went, but Jason called me Friday afternoon. Mike, I just got a copy of Brandon's psychiatric evaluation. You're going to love this. What does it say? Dr. Grayson notes that Brandon exhibited signs of obsessive behavior, controlling tendencies, and difficulty accepting information that contradicts his preconceived beliefs. He also noted that Brandon became defensive and hostile when questioned about his motivations for seeking guardianship. The report doesn't say he's mentally ill, but it definitely raises questions about whether his petition is genuinely about your welfare or about something else. Like control. Exactly. The hearing is scheduled for next Tuesday. We're going to use this, along with everything else we have, to shut this down permanently. But that weekend, things escalated. On Saturday afternoon, I was at the grocery store when I noticed someone following me, a man in his 30s, wearing jeans and a dark jacket, keeping about 20 feet behind me as I moved through the aisles. I tested it. I doubled back, changed directions, went down aisles I didn't need. He followed every time. Finally, I stopped in the middle of the produce section and turned to face him. He froze, then pretended to be looking at the apples. "Can I help you?" I said, loud enough that other shoppers turned to look. He glanced around, realized he'd been caught, and walked quickly toward the exit. I followed him. He headed for the parking lot, walking fast. I stayed behind him, memorizing details. White pickup truck, license plate number, dent in the rear bumper. He got in and drove away. I stood there in the parking lot, my heart pounding. Then I pulled out my phone and called Jason. "Mike? What's wrong?" "Someone was following me at the grocery store. I got his license plate." "Text it to me. I'll have an investigator run it." I sent him the number, then got in my car and drove home, checking my mirrors constantly. When I pulled into my driveway, I saw something that made my stomach drop. The side window of my house, the one leading to the kitchen, was broken, glass on the ground. I called 911 before going inside. The police arrived within 10 minutes. 2 officers, both young. They cleared the house while I waited outside. When they came back out, one of them said, "Nobody inside. Looks like they broke the window but didn't actually enter. Nothing seems to be missing or disturbed." "They were trying to scare me," I said. "You have any idea who might do this?" "Yes, my son." The officer raised his eyebrows. "Your son?" "We're involved in a legal dispute. He's been trying to gain control of my assets. I think this was intimidation." "Do you have any proof?" "Not of this specifically, but I have documentation of other harassment. My lawyer has it all." They took a report, gave me a case number, and left. I called a glass repair company, and they sent someone out that evening to board up the window temporarily. Then I called Jason and told him what happened. "File a police report?" "Already done." "Good. This is actually helpful, Mike. It shows escalation, desperation. They're losing control, and they know it. But you need to be careful. If they're willing to break your window, they might be willing to do more." "I know. Install some cameras if you haven't already. Document everything, and call me immediately if anything else happens." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my living room with every light on, watching the street through the window, waiting for something else to happen. Nothing did, but the white pickup truck drove past my house twice. The second hearing was Tuesday morning, same courtroom, same judge. This time, I felt more prepared. Jason had organized everything into a comprehensive presentation: medical reports, psychiatric evaluations, witness statements, police reports, everything documented, everything verified. Brandon arrived with Brennan and Alyssa. They looked tense. Judge Hendricks called the court to order and reviewed the new evidence. She read through both psychiatric evaluations carefully. Then she looked at Brandon. "Mr. Harlow, I've reviewed Dr. Grayson's evaluation of you. He notes some concerning patterns in your behavior and thinking. Would you like to address that?" Brandon stood. "Your Honor, I was under a lot of stress during that evaluation. My father and I are in conflict, and I was upset. But that doesn't change the fact that I'm concerned about him. Mr. Miller, do you have additional evidence to present?" Jason stood. "Yes, Your Honor. Quite a bit, actually." He began laying it out systematically. Dr. Porter's full neurological report with MRI results. The revised statement from Gloria Reed, admitting she'd been pressured to lie. The police report from the broken window. Photographs of the surveillance devices found in my house. Your Honor, what we're dealing with here isn't a concerned son trying to help his father. It's a calculated attempt to seize control of my client's assets through fraudulent guardianship proceedings. The petitioner has engaged in illegal surveillance, witness tampering, and property damage. Brennan shot to his feet. "Objection! Those are serious accusations without proof." "I have proof," Jason said. He pulled out another file. "These are activity logs from my client's smart home devices, showing remote access from IP addresses registered to Brandon Harlow's home and workplace. These are timestamps showing surveillance devices activated during times when only Brandon Harlow knew my client would be home alone." He handed the documents to the bailiff. "I also have this." Jason pulled out his laptop and set it up to display on the courtroom screen. Security footage from a warehouse in 2019 showing Brandon Harlow and an associate packing surveillance equipment, the same equipment later found in my client's home. The video played. There was Brandon, younger but unmistakable, loading black boxes into bags. Alyssa's face went white. Brandon stared at the screen, jaw tight. "Furthermore," Jason continued, "we've discovered that Brandon Harlow attempted to list my client's property for sale using fraudulent power of attorney documents. I have emails from the realtor confirming this." He submitted those as well. Judge Hendricks was no longer reading casually. She was focused, her expression severe. "Mr. Brennan, does your client have a response to these allegations?" Brennan looked like he was drowning. "Your Honor, my client has acted only with his father's best interests in mind." "That's demonstrably false," Jason said. "The evidence shows a pattern of deception, manipulation, and illegal activity designed to strip my client of his rights and property." Judge Hendricks held up a hand. "I've heard enough. I'm dismissing the guardianship petition entirely. Furthermore, I'm issuing a restraining order. Brandon Harlow is prohibited from contacting his father, approaching his property, or making any further legal filings regarding his father's competency without substantial new evidence approved by this court." She looked directly at Brandon. "Mr. Harlow, I'm also referring this matter to the district attorney's office for potential criminal prosecution. The evidence suggests fraud, illegal surveillance, and witness tampering. Those are serious crimes." Brandon's face had gone from pale to red. "Your Honor, I was just trying to—" "You were trying to steal from your father," the judge said, her voice cold. "Don't insult this court by pretending otherwise. The restraining order is effective immediately. Bailiff, please ensure Mr. Harlow receives a copy before he leaves." She banged her gavel. "This case is closed." I sat there, feeling the weight of months lifting off my shoulders. Jason leaned over and squeezed my shoulder. "We won, Mike. Completely." Across the room, Brandon was arguing with Brennan in harsh whispers. Alyssa was crying, mascara running down her face. As we left the courtroom, Brandon called out, "Dad, wait!" I stopped, turned. He looked broken. "I'm sorry, I was trying to help." "No, you weren't. You were trying to take everything from me." "That's not true." "It is true, and you know it. Stay away from me, Brandon. You're not my son anymore." I walked away and didn't look back. The next few weeks were quiet. No phone calls at 2147, no black SUVs, no surveillance, just peace. Jason called with updates. The district attorney was pursuing charges. Brandon had been offered a plea deal: probation, community service, restitution, and mandatory counseling. His lawyer was advising him to take it. "What about Alyssa?" I asked. "She's cooperating with investigators. Apparently, she's willing to testify about Brandon's planning and her role in spreading false information. She's trying to minimize her own liability. Do you think he'll take the deal?" "He doesn't have much choice. If he goes to trial, he's looking at serious prison time." "Good." Greg stopped by a few days later. We sat on the porch with coffee, watching the neighborhood come to life in the morning light. "How are you doing, Mike?" "Better. Much better." "Good. You earned it." He paused. "What are you going to do now?" I'd been thinking about that. I want to help other people in situations like mine. "What do you mean?" "A fund. Legal aid for people fighting guardianship abuse. I want to make sure what Brandon tried to do to me doesn't happen to anyone else." Greg smiled. "That's a hell of an idea." 3 weeks after the final hearing, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Mr. Harlow, this is Karen Voss. I'm the realtor who contacted you about the listing inquiry." I remember. I wanted to apologize. I had no idea those documents were fraudulent. If I'd known, I never would have proceeded. "I understand. I also wanted to tell you something. Your son contacted me again yesterday. He was asking if there was any way to reverse the situation, to salvage the listing. I told him no, and that I'd reported everything to my broker and the real estate commission. He got very angry." "Thank you for telling me." "Be careful, Mr. Harlow." He sounded desperate. After I hung up, I called Jason and told him about the conversation. "He's already breaking the restraining order just by showing interest in your property," Jason said. "If he reaches out to you directly, contact the police right away." "I will." That night, I sat in my living room and thought about what Karen had said. Desperate. Brandon was desperate. And desperate people made mistakes. At 2147, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Hello?" Heavy breathing. Then Brandon's voice, tight and furious. "You destroyed my life." "You destroyed your own life, Brandon. I was trying to help you." "No, you were trying to rob me. That house should be mine. Everything you have should be mine. I'm your son." "Not anymore. You're going to regret this, old man. You're alone. You've always been alone. And when you're gone, nobody will even remember you existed." I smiled. "That's where you're wrong. I'm setting up a foundation, the Harlow Defense Initiative. It's going to help people fight exactly what you tried to do to me. Every person we help, every case we win, I'll think of you. Your legacy isn't going to be what you took from me. It's going to be what I built to stop people like you." Silence. Then he hung up. I contacted the police right away and reported that he had broken the terms of the restraining order. Then I called Jason. "He just handed us everything we need," Jason said. "That call broke the terms of the restraining order. He's going to face additional charges." Good. 2 days later, Brandon was arrested for ignoring the rules of the restraining order. The call had been traced and recorded. He spent a night in jail before Brennan got him out on bail. Jason called me with the news. "The DA is pushing hard now. Brandon's plea deal just got a lot worse. They're adding the fact that he broke the restraining order to the charges. Will he go to prison? Maybe. Depends on whether he takes the new deal or tries to fight it." I didn't feel satisfaction exactly, just relief. It was really over. A month later, I was sitting in Greg's kitchen while he helped me finalize the paperwork for the Harlow Defense Initiative. We'd structured it as a nonprofit legal aid fund, specifically focused on helping elderly people fight fraudulent guardianship attempts. "How much are you putting in to start?" Greg asked. "50,000. It's enough to help 5 or 6 people, maybe more if the cases are straightforward." "That's generous, Mike. It's necessary." We finished the paperwork, and Greg notarized everything. The fund was official. Jason agreed to serve as the legal director, handling cases on a volunteer basis initially. We set up a simple website, filed the non-profit paperwork, and within 2 weeks, we had our first case. An elderly woman in Colorado Springs whose daughter was trying to force her into a nursing home and take control of her house. The pattern was identical to what Brandon had tried with me. Jason took the case. We won. Then another case came in, and another. By the end of the second month, we'd helped 4 people. All victories. I felt purpose again. Something beyond just surviving. One afternoon, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw Alyssa standing on my porch. She looked different. No makeup, hair pulled back, wearing jeans and a simple sweater. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. "Mike, I need to talk to you." "About what?" "About everything. About what we did. What I did." Her eyes were red. "Can I please come in? Just for a few minutes?" Against my better judgment, I stepped aside. She sat on the edge of the couch, hands folded in her lap. "I came to apologize for real. Not because a lawyer told me to, not because I'm trying to get something, just because I need you to know that I'm sorry." "Okay." I pushed Brandon. I encouraged him. I was obsessed with money, with status, with having more. I saw your house and I wanted it. I convinced myself that you didn't need it, that you'd be better off in a facility, that we deserved it more. I was wrong, completely wrong. Yes, you were. She looked up at me. "Brandon and I are getting divorced. I moved out 3 weeks ago. I'm living with my sister. I lost my sponsorships, my followers, everything. Nobody wants to work with someone who tried to steal from an old man." "I'm not an old man," I said quietly. "I'm 61. "I know, I'm sorry. That was thoughtless." She stood. "I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve it, but I needed to say it." She walked to the door, then turned back. "The fund you started? The one helping people? That's amazing. It's exactly what people like me need to be stopped." Then she left. I stood in my living room for a long time after she was gone, trying to decide how I felt. I didn't forgive her, but I believed she was sorry. Maybe that was enough. 6 months after the final hearing, I was sitting on my porch on a Tuesday evening when Jason called. "Mike, I've got news. Brandon took a plea deal. 3 years probation, 500 hours community service, 20,000 in restitution to you, and mandatory psychological counseling." "No prison time?" "No, but his record is permanent. He'll never work in HR or any position of trust again." I thought about that. Part of me wanted him to suffer more, but mostly, I just wanted him gone from my life. Okay. There's more. As part of the deal, he's required to sign a legally binding document stating he has no claim to your estate, now or ever. Even if you wanted to leave him something, you legally can't. I don't want to leave him anything. I figured, just wanted you to know. After I hung up, I sat there watching the sunset. The neighborhood was quiet, peaceful. My phone sat on the table next to me, silent. No call at 21:47, no questions, no surveillance, just freedom.